Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are looking at Lesson 10, Session 1. I'm getting into a little more of dividing fractions. I'm going to do something a little different because I really want you to open your book and turn to page 207, which is the family letter. This is always a really good place to look at. If you're confused, it'll give you examples to look at. But I really wanted to point this out because I know sometimes the pictures can be a little confusing. If you're looking at page 207, they give you the example up here. And one of the ways they say you can find an answer to a division with fractions is to find a common denominator. That is true. I think the easiest way, which is a method I use all the time, is to use multiplication. So if you multiply, if I had 1 1/2 divided by 1/3, I keep my first fraction, change my divide to multiply, and flip the last part. That you're going to use the reciprocal. So keep, change, flip. And it is a much easier way to do it. So let's take a look at this one and do that strategy. I'm going to do the one that is up here. If we had 1 1/2 divided by 1/6. I'm going to keep my first fraction. I'm going to simplify it to make it 3/2. So keep, I change divide to multiply, and find the reciprocal or flip the last one. So now I just multiply across. I get 18 divided by 2. My answer is 9. We will have hopefully gone over this in class, so you should already be familiar with it. So let's go ahead and look at the problem on page 209. And let's read the problem. Ramona is making clay animals with her friends. She has 3/4 pounds of clay. She shares the clay equally among herself and 3 friends. How much clay does each person have? So I want you to look at and find the important information. So how much clay does she have to start with? She has 3/4 of a pound. And then I'm going to divide or share my clay with 3 other people, but I have to include herself. So how many people is that? So I've got 4 total. So I want you to stop the video and see if you can solve 3/4 divided by 4. Okay, if you've come back, hopefully you've got an answer. The first picture I drew was to show that I have 3/4. So I started out right here as my 3/4 of a whole. And I want to divide this for 4 of my friends. So I cut each of my 3 pieces into fourths because I can share this with one of my friends, this with the same friend, and this with the same friend. Each friend gets 1 piece, 1/4 of the section. So therefore, how much does each person get? They get 3 pieces. But the tricky part is out of how many total? This piece, the size of this piece is a 16th. So because I had 4, 4, 4, and 4. So that piece of the whole is a 16th. So I would have the answer would be 3/16. Another way to look at it is on a number line. If I have, here's my 1 whole, I only have this amount. If I wanted to cut these in, so each person gets 3/16, so 3/4 is equal to 12/16. And when I divide 12/16 into 4 equal parts, they each get 3/16. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So there's for my 4 friends. So 2 strategies you could use. Also, let's do the keep, change, flip. 3/4 keep, change. The reciprocal of 4/1 is 1/4. Multiply across, I get 3/16. And that's how I can check my answer. So let's go ahead and look at the next page, 210. How much clay does each person have when Ramona shares her clay? Explain how you know. We know that she gets 3/16 of a pound. And you can divide 3/16 into 4 equal parts by making 12 parts that are each 1/16 pound. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. So each person gets 3/16. You could also use multiplication to see if that's correct. So I could have done 3/16 times my 4/1 is equal to 12/16, which is the same as 3/4, and that's what I started out with. So number 2, dividing 3/4 of clay equally among several people is a division situation that involves fractions. As when you divide with whole numbers, it can be helpful to estimate a quotient before you divide. A, estimate whether 3/4 divided by 6 is greater than or less than the dividend 3/4. Use an example by dividing 3/4 of clay into 6 equal portions to explain your thinking. So stop and think. If I have 3/4 and I cut 3/4 of something into 6 pieces, do I now have more than the 3/4 I started with, or less? Write down your answer. And you should have said less. Possibly you explained that each portion will weigh less than 3/4 a pound because you divided 3/4 into 6 smaller pieces. You cut 3/4 into 6 smaller pieces. And B, estimate whether 2 1/4 is greater than, divided by 1/4 is greater than or less than the dividend 2 1/2. Use an example by dividing 2.5 pounds of clay into 1/4 pound portions to explain your thinking. So stop the video and write your answer. You should have said greater on this one. This is greater. Because what I did was I had 2.5 and I cut each of those pieces into smaller pieces. I have more than my 2.5, more pieces, but they're much smaller. And let's go ahead and do C. Yolanda estimates that 3 1/4 divided by 1/8 is about 24. Show how to use multiplication to check whether Yolanda's estimate is correct. So I want you to do 24 times 1/8. Stop the video and come back and check. So you should remember a whole number is the same as 24/1. I multiply straight across. I get 24 divided by 8, which is 3. And 3 is really close to 3 1/4, so I would say her estimate is correct. Number 3, reflect. What division equation can you write to show that when 3/4 pound of clay is divided equally among 6 people, each person gets 1/8 pound of clay? How would you use multiplication to check the quotient if that quotient is correct? So if I did, first I'm going to write it 3/4 divided by 6 equal 1/8. I'm going to see if that's correct because I'm going to do 6 times 1/8. Remember that's 6/1. That gives me 6/8, which is equivalent to 3/4. So you can copy that down. And then turn to the next page. I'm going to help you through this one because you're going to do the next page by yourself. So the first one, what is a fraction? So it's what is it? It's a number that names equal parts of a whole. Equal parts of a whole. What do you know about it? So you know that the numerator tells you how many equal parts there are, and the denominator tells you the number of parts in the whole. So a fraction can represent the division of two numbers. So the numerator, I'm just going to abbreviate, numerator is the parts, how many parts. The denominator is the parts of the whole. And you can use the fraction is the same as division. Oh, okay. Example, we have 7/10. We have 7 equal parts out of a total of 10 pieces. Another example is, let's say I had a fraction 5/6. I could shade in 5 of my 6. Number 2, a fraction of a model is shaded. What are the numerator and the denominator of the fraction? Explain how you know. I would like you to write this down and then check it with your answer. I should have said my numerator is 5 because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded in out of my total 8. You should have written 8. So then the next thing you are going to do, you are going to complete this next page by yourself. And that is page 212. Make sure you show your work. Check back with the Google Classroom to see if you had any other assignments.